Okay, so 2025 has officially come to an end, and with it, my will to live. So anyways, today we will be tier ranking my favorite reads this year because why not? So this includes like both rereads and new series that I've started, and like you can see here that sometimes I don't always finish the series. For instance, like the Shatter Me series, I DNF'd after 3 books because it was terrible. But we will get to that later. So yeah, let's just begin. So the first book here is The Wicked King, and this was a reread, and it was always my one of my favorite series to be honest. So it's definitely going in this top tier right here, cause yeah, Jude was still Jude. There's not much to say here. I love this series. It will always be my favorite probably, out of all the YA series that I've read. And then next we starting off strong, I guess. We have One Dark Window. So my a big issue that I've had with this series was that the plot was very slow. Like it was physically difficult to get through to the point where I had to like force myself to read this series. And I bought these 2 books at once, so I was just like trying to get to the second book without dying. And then yeah, overall, the thing is the characters weren't particularly outstanding. Like I didn't hate them, but again, I didn't really like them. The world, I would give it kudos on the fact that like the world building was unique, like in many ways, because it was like the cards themselves, I guess, were pretty special. I've never read a series like that before, so I would put One Dark Window in here. And then Two Twisted Crowns kind of just like drag things down a lot for me. So I would put it in the bottom tier because it was like there was too much dialogue, even though it was supposed to be a very action like heavy book. And yeah, it just did not cut it for me. So there it goes. So this is Immortal Consequences. Um yeah, I know. I would rather not read it again. Like the sixth perspective, like to be honest, I appreciate that like the effort that the author put in into differentiating the 6 different POVs because that was pretty difficult. But in at the end of the day, like ultimately the only person I felt like really had a voice was Irene and Oliver, I think. And then even then, like though these two didn't have like Irene again did not have that much of a voice. And then it obviously like it's like not a finished series, so I would definitely want to know what happens next when the next book comes out. But like ultimately it was not like the characters weren't that great for me. The plot was also like comparatively pretty slow. And yeah, and then like the guy August and Ren, I think they definitely weren't my favorite characters. Like I didn't like them. I found the romance to be very forced and like they had no chemistry, and I found like August and Irene actually like would make more sense to me as a pair compared to August and Ren, which was just like very forced, and it was just there because romance, I guess. And but I did like like the relationship between Irene and the Mario, the guy whose name starts with N. But other than that, there's not much to say about this book. I didn't like it, but the thing is, I would read it because I'm very curious about like what happens next. So when the next book comes out, I would read it. And the Naturals, I don't know. So for the Naturals, I finished the series, which is impressive, I guess. So the first book was very F to me. Like to be honest, I hated Cassie throughout the series. I didn't hate her, but I just didn't like her that much. Yeah, she wasn't a great character for me. So the first book is going in Ed, the second book is going in I would rather not because I didn't like Dane either. I think his name was Dane. Anyways, because I found him to be like, oh, like he had a very sad boy, like emo boy thing going on, I guess, and I didn't fall for that. I found Michael to be like the more enjoyable character to read about, and Dane really did not cut it for me. And Dane was a bit of an ass, to be honest. Like he said some things, did some things, never apologized for the things he did, particularly like the things that he said to Leah. I just didn't. It wasn't a great time for me. Also, I don't know like if anyone noticed, but like throughout the series, it was constantly mentioned that Leah only trusted Dane because they were like the only ones at the beginning, and then they like had this. They were supposed to have the sibling relationship, but once and again, I found myself like I found that only Leah was the one making any sort of effort to support their relationship in the sense that like Dane never really went to ask if Leah was okay. Dane never really supported Leah, and it was always Leah was always the one like trying to initiate that relationship. So I found this to be like very one-sided, and like also he was like very disrespectful to Leah. even though they were supposed to be siblings and he was supposed to be like the only one that she could trust in this entire like naturals group. And it was, I did not like him, so the second book was no for me. All in was actually a really fun read for me because like it was about Sloane and Leah and Leah's relationship. I kind of explored Leah's relationship with Michael. I liked like Leah and Michael's relationship. I liked reading about Sloane's backstory, and overall the like entire murder mystery that it surrounds like the Fibonacci sequence. It was pretty exhilarating, and I would give this a reread sometime. I guess it was a fun read. And Bad Blood. Yeah, like it was about the cult, I think, and Leah's backstory with the cult and stuff. Yeah, it was also a fun read, and yeah, it was fast paced. It was mostly the pacing, I guess, and the overall plot of the book. That was nice. The characters also improved a lot in the series in this book, I think, because Cassie got more of a personality in this book, and I still didn't like Dane, but Leah also got her backstory, which I found was pretty nice, and yeah, it was a fun read. So Vicious, I gave this 4 stars, I think, on Goodreads, but I would say that it would be on the top of like fun reads because okay, I would like say that it was very slow to the point where it was like kind of boring to get through some of the parts, but overall, I found the characters to be very well written, to be very like two-dimensional. And sometimes it was like I guess the entire point of the series was that you never know who's the villain and like, who's the hero in this book because all the characters were so morally ambiguous. But overall, yeah, I liked the plot. It was fast. The world actually I liked the world building. Like it was so simple and kind of rudimentary, but like the way that it was executed was like kind of nice because like they explore the concept that you have to like go through a near death experience to get like powers to the point where they were like actively initiating these near death experiences, and like that was very interesting to read about. Actually, I've never seen like the process of getting a power in the book explored this way in particular. So even though it seemed like very, basic, I did find this world building to be quite nice. Now, Vengeful it was still good, but I would put it on the top of like the mid tier because it was very different from Vicious in the sense that like it introduced a new female protagonist who I didn't like a lot because this female protagonist, she was meant to represent feminism and support for a woman, but I just feel like that in some parts she really didn't get to, like she was born in a privileged even though yes she was get like a lot of opportunities were taken away from her because of her gender. She was still born in a privileged position, and then a lot of times when she talks down on other people who are in less privileged situations, I just feel like that she doesn't really understand that she doesn't really have the right to talk to them that way because she doesn't understand what they went through. And even as a sort of feminist icon, there was a particular scene that stood out to me in because I think that like she saw another woman who was like conventionally attractive, I guess, and I think like the other woman did sex work or something, I don't know, and then she was like what she would talk to like talked about the other woman's body and kind of like called her dumb, which I found really ironic because she was meant to represent an equal chance for all women, like no matter what their circumstances were. And first of all, she never understood the other woman's circumstances. She just like kind of like mentally degraded her. And yeah, and second of all, she really did not get, again, she does not have a say in what the other woman does because she was born in a privileged like situation. So I just feel like as a feminist icon, this new female protagonist didn't work like that well. And yeah, overall it was still a pretty fast-paced read, and I did like it, but it just didn't cut it as much as Vicious did. And that was a long rant. So, anyways, Darker Shade of Magic, it was maybe at the at the bottom of yeah, because it was slow. Okay, I didn't like the plot. It was like, to be honest, quite slow. I didn't love the characters, and there were some parts where the female protagonist was like a little bit pick me, I would be honest, because like she kept talking about how like I guess it's not just women, like she kept talking about how rich people in general were stupid, but particularly rich women, which I found really misogynistic. So yeah, I didn't like that much. Good Girl, Bad Blood. Yeah, I would rather. Actually, no, I put it on top. I'll put it there. Yeah. So the thing is, I quite liked the rest of the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, which is why I read to the third book, obviously. And I feel like by the third book, it just really downgraded a lot in the sense that the plot was no longer like it used to be like a very fast-paced plot. You used to like uh used to like have like a logical order as to how the murder happened, but at this point it just feels like the murder wasn't that believable anymore, and I think that the author should have just like ended it. Holly Black should have just ended it at the second book because at this point it wasn't believable anymore as a true crime book. And yeah. Oh, and another main problem that I had with this book was that it tried to redeem Andy Bell. Like I didn't feel like Andy Bell needed redeeming, to be honest, but then this book tried to like frame it as, oh, Andy always cared for her sister. She was always like trying to get them out of that like abusive household, and then she always cared for Bella. And I guess this was like supposed to make the entire situation more tragic, but I just found it to be like very unbelievable because like, what do you mean she cared for her sister? But at the same time, she literally ignored like what was it? Bella. It doesn't matter. Anyways, she literally ignored her sister's rape after her sister told her in the first book. So I was like, okay, how can you say that she cares for like she secretly cares for her sister when her sister literally told her that she was raped and you ignored her? I don't know how they can twist like how this I don't know how they can twist this into saying that Andy Bell was good because, to be honest, you don't need to redeem every single character, but the way that, what like when you do, obviously it has to work, and if it doesn't work, it's just like very cheap, and I did not like how they try to redeem Andy. Okay, so next Shatter Me series. Oh, this is easy. That's okay. Okay, I feel that like this will get a lot of hate, but like let me explain. So Shatter Me didn't really cut it for me as a dystopian novel. Like obviously all dystopian novels are like very like heavy on world building, and I feel like that as a dystopian novel, Shadow Me just like really lacked that world building. It was, I guess, it was like the author was trying to create a mix between fantasy and dystopian because like she couldn't choose one, and then ultimately it just created like some sort of like weird fantasy dystopian mutant hybrid, which down like literally did not play out to either genre's advantage. So the world building was cheap, it did not make sense, and then the characters were even cheaper. So I guess again, like Julia is literally like the definition of a tragic backstory does not make a good character because like she was a terribly written character. Let's all be honest here. Yeah, like the only thing that was good about her was her backstory, and it was a very interesting backstory. But in no way did that backstory really motivate any of her actions. I guess like not in the way that you would expect her to like be motivated. For instance, like when Erin asked her whether or not she would join him, I guess I really expected her to join him, but then again she didn't. So that was like just one point, but that was like my personal opinion. That's not a very objective point to look at it. And if you want like a more objective way of looking at why the characters are terrible, just look at like Adam Kent and what Aaron Warner. Like Aaron was an entire like complete freak throughout the entire series. I'm sorry, but like he did not get redeemed at all. He never apologized for what he did in like to Juliet in the first book, even though he kind of did like sexually assault her if you think about it, because he tried to like feel her up or something in the last few pages. And it was really weird to me. Like it was a very twisted, codependent kind of love, and he was a complete freak. And he never apologized for any of his actions. The only way the author tried to redeem him was by somehow trying to like find an excuse for his actions, which I found really cheap and very half-assed. And yeah, and then Adam was throughout this series, Adam was always trying to be framed as this very evil, very like what somehow unredeemable character, even though he was literally the only logical character throughout this entire series because he was the only one who ever doubted Aaron, even like after all the shit that Aaron's done to them in the first book and the second book. He was the only one who actually hesitated when trusting Aaron, and somehow he was framed as a bad guy for this. Like this is very insane, and I don't like how Adam was written. So and then I like saw some TikTok, I guess, talking about how, oh, Adam was written this way because like he was based off the author's ex, which yeah, sure, but like doesn't change the fact that that like this entire plot for him and for Warner was very messed up and also very unbelievable, very badly written overall. And yeah, so Adam's character was ruined by the second book, which I don't know why. He could have been, moved out of the plot in like a more normal way instead of just like degrading him for Aaron. And Aaron was unredeemable by the end of the first book. I don't know why the author tried to make him the love interest. And I don't know why like everybody thirsts after him, even though he's a complete freak. And yeah, there's nothing romantic about him. He there's no redeeming that. Yeah, and then the only reason I held on to the series was because of Nazira. And even in the end, Nazira wasn't that, like, she turned out to be a disappointment. I would expect her as a rational character to at least, like, kind of, like, doubt Juliet's authority, because like Juliet was a teenage girl ruling the entire of North America. Like I would expect some rational character to doubt her authority, but Nazira wasn't that character, even though she was supposed to be like depicted as very rational, which I found very weird and also did not cut it for me. Okay, so we found Cersei. Okay, so Cersei is probably at the top of my it was a fun read series tier. Yeah, Cersei was very well written. I rooted for Cersei the entire way. I could understand her motives. She was a very two-dimensional character. She was a very three-dimensional character. And then yeah, she was nice. The only reason why I didn't give it like a 5 star in my ratings, I think, was because the ending got a bit weird for me. Like after falling in love with Odysseus, she fell in love with like Telemachus, who was his son, which I found really weird. But I guess it was still very typical to like the Greek retelling kind of style. But just for me personally, I didn't. I found this weird, but again, it fit the theme really well, so kudos to that. Song of Achilles was an easy 5 star. I'll put it on top of that actually. So because, okay, yeah, it was a sad read. It wasn't very tear inducing, but it was a really good series, and I rooted for the characters. I could understand their motives. It was weird enough to be, a classic Greek retelling, and it was normal enough to be a modern love story. And yeah, it was nice. Fourth Wing, nope. Yeah, because okay, I feel like Satan in this series was way too sexualized. Like he was, how like they talk about how male authors always write females to be like have big boobs and like curves and shit, and then like and then it gets like really misogynistic and weird. Yeah, like Satan was that like the female author equivalent of that, because like what do you mean the first thing that the Violet noticed about him was like his big bulging muscles and like his like dark brooding eyes or shit. Like I don't understand Satan. Satan was just like such a bad character for me. I'm sorry. And then Violet was obviously a self-insert character. There's not much to be said about that. Like what do you mean she's so petite? She's so small, and she was like, but then at the same time she's like so strong and powerful. And also she was supposed to be like a very smart character. I just did not get that from her at all. Yeah, like I would expect like a smart character to like make more clever plans, but she really didn't. Crooked Kingdom was one of my favorite books actually. It was, again, I love Six of Crows. I feel like all the characters were very three-dimensional. All the characters were very well written. Yeah, not much to be said. The plot was fast. I liked it. The Joy Luck Club, I gave it, okay, yeah, I'll put it like there, because this was one of the only times in my life where I actually got emotional over a book. Like this was maybe the second book I kind of like had tears over, because I feel like genuinely, even when they were trying to frame like characters as sort of like worse in a situation, really they just like at the end they all gave all the characters like a three-dimensional side. And even when a character seems like a really bad like a very very terrible person in trying to make another character look bad, in reality, like even the bad characters have a side that can demonstrate why they are like this. And it was a very good series. Yeah, overall. The only main issue I had with this, and why I did not give it 5 stars instead of like 4 stars, was because all the characters sounded identical. Like they all had their unique stories, which I found really good. They all had their like unique motivations, their unique backstories, but then their voices in the book sounded exactly the same, and I was very hard like differentiating between them in like throughout the series. Yeah. And then The Life of Pi, yeah, I get why it's a classic. It was funny. It was entertaining. Pi was like such a likable character, and yeah, it was pretty deep in the end actually. So it was a fun read. One of Us is Lying. I'd rather drink bleach than read this again. I can't believe it was advertised as like a thriller series because I can't. There was no part of this that was thriller, because like it was like the entire series was kind of like written as a high school romance drama, and all the characters were like they had no backstory. I'm sorry, they were like so two-dimensional, and overall okay, first of all, the plot didn't make sense. Like the plot wasn't a thriller plot. Like you would expect that they would focus more on solving the actual murder mystery instead of just like airing everybody's personal dirty relationship drama, and not even in a way that actually assists with helping the case. And yeah, it was just not, the plot was just like bad and did not make sense. And then the characters, the author was trying so hard to do something clever with the characters. Like, oh, look, they're like all cliche. They all seem like cliches, but in reality, like they're all very like three-dimensional, and they're all very like deep. And I'm doing something so clever with like playing with these cliches. No, you weren't. They were like, even after they like the author tried so hard to like make these characters special, they were still cliches. Like there was physically nothing special about these characters. There's nothing I can say. Like I hated all these characters because they were all so two-dimensional. The only character that I really liked was Adeline, like Addie, I think. And then yeah, like she was a pretty nice character. I liked her. I liked her like self-respect arc. But even then, I can't deny the fact that she was a very cliche character, even after the author tried to like play with that cliche of a popular girl. So I can't like this series because first of all, it was advertised as a thriller, even though it wasn't. And second of all, even if like they were trying to explore the characters in a deeper level, it just really didn't cut it. So Kingdom of the Wicked, I'll put it in the top of that. Yeah, nope. I couldn't. It was not. The plot was slow. The characters were. I didn't hate the characters, but they weren't particularly likable. But I couldn't get over the fact that the female protagonist, like just kept calling the male protagonist like a predator. Like, what do you mean a predator? Like, is he a furry or something? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, stop calling him a predator. It's freaking me out. Anyways, so yeah, I'll put it at the bottom of that because like I DNF'd it like 3/4 in, but it wasn't. I didn't hate it, but like it just weirded me out to a point where I couldn't go back to actually liking it and actually taking it seriously. And Lady Macbeth, I would also put it at the bottom of like I would rather not, because again I didn't hate the series, but it was disappointing because the cover was so pretty, and then it came like a hot pink sprayed edge. It was like so pretty, but then no, like that wasn't. It was supposed to be like a Lady Macbeth retelling. She was supposed to be like smart, but then even when the author tried to say that she was smart, like they never really showed that through her actions or her thought process. So no, I don't like this series. No. And also the main issue with this book was that it stripped Lady Macbeth of all her agency, when really in the original Shakespeare play, that was what had her agency. It was what had made her as a character stand out amongst like, all the Shakespeare or like, the plays at that time, because during that time women didn't have agency, but then because she had independence and she was like the one driving all the plans, she was a special character. And if you take that agency away, and like essentially it makes her like all the other characters, it takes away what's special about her as a character, so I don't really get the point in the author like trying to rewrite this retelling, because it honestly did not add any modernity to like the book, and it didn't elevate the book in any way. Victoria Aveyard, I would put at the top of no, because I DNF'd it halfway. It was a bad series. It was so cliche. And at the beginning, I thought it would be okay. Like I was gonna give it like a 3 stars, but then at the end, they just like I can't get over the fact that like the author kind of like degraded like Evangeline Samos to like put Mare up. I guess I can't stand authors who degrade a female character for the main female protagonist. I just can't stand that. So when Avanje was introduced, I immediately knew that I wouldn't like the series, and I was gonna give it 1 stars, but I gave it 2 stars instead because it was better than the copycat version of it, which was Powerless, and I kind of did it just to like, I don't know, make me feel better about hating Powerless. And speaking of Powerless, I would rather bleach my eyes and never read this again. I'm sorry, because like, okay, again, it's like a shit book copying off like another completely shit book, and somehow becoming even more shit. That like the characters were 2 dimensional, like Peyton was so dumb. Like I can't, like, what do you mean she was supposed to like blend in and survive, but what do you mean she wore like a bright silver sparkling dress that was like directly against the implied dress code, knowing that she would get hated for that, and somehow people still love her? Like I don't get that part. I really don't. And yeah, I didn't like how they put down Blair for Peyton and to make Peyton look better, and I didn't like Peyton. Yeah, I didn't like Kai either. He was a complete asshole. Like what do you the only I hate him so much. I can't. I hate Kai. Okay, like he's not hot. Why do people think he's not hot? Why do people think that he's hot? He's just like a carbon copy of every other book talk main character. Like in the history of book talk. Like why he's not even special in the way that like for instance Carden might be. He's just like a copy. He's just like a weird mutant hybrid. I don't get this. This is ACOTAR series, the last 2 books of the ACOTAR series, because I skipped A Quarter of Frost and Starlight. Yeah, so this, I would put it in air. I'll put it at the bottom of air, because, like, I didn't like Feyre and Reese, but I did like the extra screen time that Nesta get, because really, she was, like, the only character that I actually read the series for. And, ACOSIF, A Quarter of Silver Films, yeah, I'll put it at the bottom of new fave book, because, again, Nesta, I love Nesta. She is a girl boss. I can relate to her in some, like, deep, weird, twisted, intrinsic level, I guess, because, you know, temper issues. But, like, yeah, like, seriously speaking, I think Nesta was a very well-written series. I love that she, like, evolved from a typical, stereotypical, like, you know, mean stepsister, like, mean sister, to that was only made to, like, make the main character look good, to an actual 3-dimensional character that we can like love and enjoy reading about. So yeah, I love the exposure that this book gave to Nesta. She absolutely like deserves a book for herself. And this is my tier list of 2025. This is a great tier list. I love this tier list. I will strongly stand by this book rating until I reread all these books, I guess, and re-rank this. But until then, I guess I will make another one at the end of 2026, and hopefully I'll read more books this year. So yeah, great.